Okay, so I'm reading along chapter 1 in my book, and Rowan says that he's always loved the image of prayer as bird watching. And I thought to myself, I have watched birds before, but I'm not a bird watcher. Who could take me into the warped, tedious mind of a bird watcher like none other? And one of my very, very good friends with whom I have watched birds is the Reverend Dave Mowers from Baraboo, Wisconsin. Dave, I am so, so grateful for you actually like jumped at this invitation, not surprising, but an alarmingly fast, I'm sure because of the beating heart you have for bird watching.
Yeah, if somebody says, come and talk to us about birds, it's not usually something I can turn down.
So for like, tell us, like, take us into the heart of it. Cause like, I watch birds, I see them, but I'm not bird watching. What is a bird watcher doing? And where do you find the joy in it?
Yeah, bird watching, and I prefer to call it birding because it's an active thing, and bird watching sounds a little passive to me. And it very much is active, and it's very much about giving attention to a particular place. And that might sound weird, but I'll tell you a story about the first bird that sort of sparked my interest in birding. And it wasn't that long ago, four or so years ago. I was in my my in-laws' home in Mesa, Arizona, and there was this little cardinal-sized bird bopping around in the yard, and it had a little black kind of patch on the face, like a cardinal. And of course, cardinals in Wisconsin are everywhere, state bird, and they're beautiful and colorful and everywhere. And this was not a cardinal, but it was kind of the color of a female cardinal, or a little more coppery. And they had a little bird book and a pair of binoculars in a basket next to one of their easy chairs that they used to watch hummingbirds and things. And so I picked it up, and I'm trying to figure out what this bird is. And turns out it was something called Abert's towhee. And a towhee, there's a family of towhees. We have eastern towhees in Wisconsin, and there's several other kinds. But Abert's, I learned in the bird book, is it's only found in eastern Arizona, Sonoran Desert. And there's a note in the National Geographic Field Guide that says that it has successfully colonized the suburban backyards of the East Phoenix metro area, which is where Mesa is. And so there's only one place in the world where you can see Abert's towhee. And in my in-laws' backyard, we would call it in birding a trash bird. It's just everywhere. You don't have to look for it, not particularly rare, but it's only in that one place. And I came home to Wisconsin after that trip and said, what birds are here that are only in this place, or that maybe are only in this place in a particular way? And so for me, learning to bird, particularly in Baraboo, since I've served here 4.5 years now, has been about trying to learn specifically what's special about this particular place. And trying to know what is common and everyday and sort of mundane, so that when the truly odd thing happens, whether it's a bird that's completely weird and never seen before in the state or in the area or in the county or whatever, or completely weird time of year, which happens sometimes. Birds should be in certain places at certain times, and this bird is not here when it's supposed to be. And the way you really learn to see what's rare is by learning to see what's common. And in the Williams passage that you mentioned, he talks about that in prayer, and I think it's a really great way to think about discipleship and following Jesus. And most of us don't get the kind of audible voice of God in our head telling us to do really anything. You don't get the like James Earl Jones from the back of the theater, go to Africa, we don't, that's not how God calls us to things. Like mostly God calls us to love the people that he's put in our lives over and over again, day by day. It's common, it's mundane, it's the stuff of life. And it's beautiful and often colorful, and often the light hits our lives in just a particular way, so that the feathers on the front of that American robin are just especially orange on that particular day. And that's what following Jesus is. And then sometimes you're in a place where you're expecting that kind of the normal, and something truly spectacular happens. You hear a sermon where something just catches you, and the next thing you know, you're weeping and you don't know why. Or you're praying and silently and really have a sense that God is calling you to do to say a specific thing to a specific person. And you go to do that, and it drops like a bomb in their world. It's a really meaningful, powerful thing. In order to really appreciate the specialness, the rarity, the spectacular nature of that, you have to be acquainted with what's common, and to know it and to love it. There's another story about a guide who's pretty famous, a guy called Jaramillo is his last name, and he birds in Latin America, and there's a story about him saying to an American tourist who had come to see spectacular birds in Central America, and Alvaro said, well, here's an American robin. And the guy kind of went, shh. I don't know about Texas. I've never been to Texas. Sorry. But in Wisconsin, American robins are, I went birding this morning. I saw one. You see them. They're
Right.
everywhere. The ubiquitous lawn thrush, one field guide says. So they're in lots of places. And this tourist sort of said, robin, I didn't come here to see robins. I've seen robins before. And Alvaro Jaramillo said to him, yeah, but you haven't seen that one. And I think there's we say our prayers and we come to mass and we do what we do to follow Jesus. We serve the poor. And in each moment, there is the possibility of a world that is wider and broader than we knew. And all it might take is just the light hitting something in a way that is different, just really anything could open this new sense of possibility, and new way of being in the world. That's one of the reasons why I like to practice and like to go out bird watching, because you just never know any given day what you're going to see and how good of a look you're going to get, and are you going to see something that's new for you or that's truly rare for the area, and you just never know. And sometimes you see crows, and crows are cool, crows are smart, and you appreciate what you get. And so much of that is about prayer too. When you might want it to be a particular way, and sometimes you get crows, and yet there's beauty and grace and intelligence and lots of things in crows to appreciate and give thanks for. Just like our prayer lives are sometimes when nothing much spectacular is happening, but we're still showing up, and God is still there, oddly enough. So. Does that help? Is that anywhere?
That helps me so much, Dave. Like, I mean, for our class, yes, but also just for me personally. And I love your observation about the common things, because like the difference between a birder, you, and someone who watches birds, like I wouldn't know if that bird is really special, like to the area.
Yeah.
It's just another bird. But you, having like seen what stages of like juvenile, et cetera, you should expect, seasons, all that kind of stuff, you can recognize the uncommon, the out of place, and get drawn into the beauty of the particular, which I think is has got to be something about what seeking and serving Christ in each person is about.
Yeah, joy and wonder in all things. I think about that phrase a lot when I'm out birding, and one of my birding parishioners here, who's really taught me so much about birding, he says that the best way to get to be able to recognize the spectacular, the rare, whatever, is to know the 100 most common birds in your area really, really well. And if it's not one, and once you know those, then you have a sense fairly quickly, usually, once you really know that list of this is not 100 most common. And at that point, you're into a good bird. I mean, even if it's a bird you've seen before, even if it's not particularly rare. I had something called the Lincoln sparrow this morning that checks all those boxes, not particularly rare, only here a particular time of year, but you don't see it. And I got a great look at it, and I was like, hey, good day. And we even said to each other this morning, yeah, this is a good day. We saw a Lincoln sparrow. So anything else can happen, it's fine. But here's this Lincoln sparrow. So
The other thing I really appreciate is how you bring the ordinary and the mundane in with, like, it's the discipline that makes the flash and spontaneity possible.
Yeah, that's right. And that's very much like prayer in my experience.
Yeah. Well, Dave, thank you. We needed an expert. I got stuck in this book, bird watching, birding, and was just so grateful for your sharing, and even more grateful for you as a friend. And
Yes.
thanks,
Well,
man.
glad to be here. Thanks for having me.